What's going on, everyone? This is Hog Trail, aka the GOAT from Team Canada and Discord. I've decided to start a new YouTube channel to help you all get good and become better raw deal superstars. I say get good in jest. I know you're all very good, but we could always get better, even me. So what I plan to do with this series is just choose a random superstar and build a deck. So you can see my thought process and perhaps we can both learn some new things. So here you see the Octagon game window, which you're all familiar with. If you're not on Octagon, then you're doing it wrong. It's a great way to play the game, especially during these times. So I've loaded up my arsenal of superstar cards. So this is, I believe, every superstar card in the game except for like the throwbacks who are obviously better than the originals, you know. So let's see who we get. Dusty Rhodes. All right. So let's build Dusty Rhodes. Okay, here we are in the Octagon deck builder. This is a great source for people who don't even play online and they just want a record of every card that is an official raw deal card, including virtual. So as you can see, I already have cards over here. I loaded up my face deck shell. I mean, we're going to make Dusty Rhodes and I couldn't bring myself to make him heal. So this is just my shell that I use when I'm building. It includes the standard backstage cards. We might not even pack these, but they're there for now. We can get rid of them later. And each of the shenanigans, because there's no reason not to pack them. Right now, this has Revolution of the Mind in it, but spoiler alert, Dusty is a legend. So we're most likely going to go legendary defense. Douchebag, Carlito. Hold the Phone, which is a card that often gets cut, but I like to include it if possible just because it reverses so many good cards. Get the F out, Elbow, there's 3 in there. There might not be by the end of this video. 2 Don't Try, Miss Your Chance, Divine, Raw Deal Revolution, 3 Volley This, 3 Once Is Enough, 3 Sloppy, which is a staple for any face deck. 2 Sidewalk Slams, that might go down to 1. Here Comes the Cavalry and Olay. And then standard mid-match cards. Road to Victories, probably the one out of these that might not make it. So let's look at Dusty Rhodes. Superstar logo contains Dusty. All right, let's look at this alternate card. Dusty Rhodes is a 5 hand size with a 4 value. He is a legend, and he's also a classic WWF superstar. His ability during your draw segment, draw up to number cards instead, where number is the difference between your superstar value and your opponent's superstar value. It cannot be greater than 3. When number is 0, put up to 1 card from your ringside into your hand instead. You cannot pack managers or corners. So Dusty has potentially really good draw power. If Dusty's opponent is a 1 superstar value, and Dusty maintains his 4 base superstar value, then he's drawing 3 cards every turn. And he becomes Dude Love if he and his opponent have equal superstar value, and he gets to pick up a card from ringside every turn, which is also really good. So let's keep that in mind when we're looking at potentially pre-match cards to play. The American Dream, backstage area. When you draw 1 or more cards during your draw segment, your first maneuver with Classic in the title played this turn is minus number Fortitude, where number is equal to the number of cards drawn. When you draw 0 during your draw segment, your first maneuver with Classic in the title is +2 damage. Your Elbow Drop and Bionic Elbow are Fortitude 0 +2 damage, and replace the Bubba Ray Dudley text with Dusty Rhodes. Let's open a new tab and take a look at Bionic Elbow. It's a strike, 5 Fortitude, 8 damage, 1 stun value. Can only be played after a successfully played strike maneuver Cannot be reversed from your opponent's backlash deck. If played by Bubba Ray Dudley, or in this case, if played by Dusty Rhodes, reversals to this card are plus 10 fortitude. So it's not a terrible card, but it's not a great card. I don't know if it'll make its way into this deck, but we'll see. The Common Man, backstage area. Cannot be packed when packing Classic Competitor. When packing this card, your maneuvers with Classic in the title are not unique. Your maneuvers with Classic in the title are plus 2 damage. And when one of your pre-match cards would be moved from your ring, you may hide this card instead. This is a really good card. So losing Classic Competitor kind of sucks because that helps your Classic maneuvers, and Dusty Rhodes is all about the Classic maneuvers. However, now he gets to pack up to 3 of all of them, and there's some pretty good ones. So that's not bad. And it makes all of his Classic maneuvers plus 2 damage, and more damage is usually a good thing. But I really like the last effect. When one of your pre-match cards would be moved from your ring, you may hide this card instead. Keep that in mind in a second. Texas Bull Rope match, WWF pre-match stipulation. Cannot be blanked, which is great for a stipulation. During your opponent's turn, when he plays a non-superstar specific non-maneuver card, he randomly discards 1 card. During your turn, when you play a non-unique non-maneuver card, discard 1 card. This card can really mess up your opponent. If he's trying to blue wave you, if he's playing a lot of actions, he's going to have to discard a random card for each non-superstar specific non-maneuver card, which is painful. And the penalty that you incur isn't that much because it still lets you play unique actions, which might be good. So this will most likely be in our deck because it's a really good card. All right, so remember when I told you to remember the Common Man? Well, let's look at Managed by Sapphire. Pre-match manager, WWF. It is superstar specific, so Dusty Rhodes can pack it, even though his ability says he cannot pack managers. Cannot be blanked, can be played during any pre-match phase, and does not take up a slot in your ring. All of those words are music to my ears. Your opponent's Yorktown and non-superstar specific manager are blank. At the end of the pre-match phase, he may put 4 cards from his hand on the bottom of his arsenal. If he does, put this card into your ringside. When this card is in your ring or ringside, you may remove it from the game to reverse a non-superstar specific maneuver. So it's another version of Managed by Jimmy Hart with some extra spice to it. So there's 2 effects that this card has that would remove it from your ring. The first is at the end of the pre-match phase, your opponent can put 4 cards from his hand on the bottom. If he does, put this card in your ringside. So instead, you can say, all right, well, I'm just going to hide the Common Man instead. So your opponent loses 4 cards and you hide the Common Man. And then you still have Sapphire in your ring. It really, unless your opponent has a non-superstar specific manager that he really wants, there's no reason for him to put the 4 cards in the bottom, knowing that you're probably going to hide the Common Man and he's just going to lose 4 cards anyway. But, you know, maybe he doesn't realize that. And the reversal effect, when this card's in your ring and ringside, you may remove it from the game to reverse a non-superstar specific maneuver. You can say, all right, I'm just going to hide the Common Man to reverse your non-superstar specific maneuver. So Managed by Sapphire will absolutely be going into this deck. It's a very good card. Dusty's Legendary Longevity. Cannot be packed when packing WrestleMania. During any turn, when you would lose the game via pinfall victory, you may put this card into your ring from your backlash or ringside, shuffle up to 10 cards from your ringside and 2 cards removed from the game into your arsenal. Your opponent puts up to one trademark finisher from his ring into his ringside and end the current turn. So this is representative of the classic Dusty finish in wrestling. It allows you to escape a pinfall victory, gives you another chance to hopefully eke out a win. Solid card, no reason not to pack it. Common Man Elbow Drop. High risk, WWF classic. Can only be played after a successfully played 4 damage or greater maneuver or as a counter to a maneuver. Can only be reversed by unique reversals from hand or from arsenal. This is a really good card, a really good high risk. It's high damage, 2 stun value, 15 fortitude, 12 damage. Great card, no reason not to pack it. Dusty's Figure 4 Leglock, trademark finisher plus submission, 20 fortitude, 12 damage. WWF, it is multi, 2 stun. As a maneuver, this card is minus number fortitude and plus number damage, where number is equal to twice the number of cards drawn for your ability this turn. When number is 0, it cannot be reversed by non-unique cards. And you may maintain hold from your ringside into your hand. So this card could potentially be minus 6 fortitude and plus 6 damage if you have the full 3 for your superstar ability. Good card. It's a trademark finisher submission, so that kind of makes it easier to reverse because now once is enough and get the F out, reverse it. Plus your typical, revolution of the mind or counter reversals will get it, but it's still a good card. It'll most likely make its way into the deck. The American Dream Bionic Elbow, trademark finisher, 35 fortitude, 3 stun, 15 damage. When played, this card is plus 3 damage for every card drawn during your draw segment this turn. When this card is 20 damage or more, it is multi. When you drew 0 cards during your draw segment, this card cannot be reversed from hand or backlash. Wow. Okay, so this card could be plus 9 damage if you draw the full 3. And if you do, then it's multi, which technically makes it sort of easier to reverse, but still, it's a nice big trademark finisher. And if you draw 0 cards during your draw segment, it becomes really hard to reverse. We'll definitely make it into the deck. Son of a Plumber. 8 fortitude reversal. When played from hand, reverse any maneuver and shuffle up to 4 cards from your ringside into your arsenal. Nothing fancy about that. Just a good card. Reverse any maneuver are great words in this game, and it gives you some added recovery. Absolutely, he's going to make it in. The Common Man Boogie. Fortitude 0, multi-action. This card ignores Hell in a Cell match. Shuffle this card and up to 2 cards from your ringside into your arsenal. When this card will be removed from the game, put it on the bottom of your arsenal instead. Potential infinite recovery is always good in this game. I will not say no. Good card. Hard Times, multi-action. Cannot be reversed, which is great for an action. Shuffle any number of cards classic in the title from your ringside and or your hand into your arsenal, and then draw up to the same number of cards moved from your hand plus 2. So you could potentially recover a ton of cards using this. Good card, and we will definitely be using it. Rhodes Family Values, another multi-action shared by all the Rhodes family. Shuffle any number of cards with logos on this card from your ringside into your arsenal. Draw up to 3 cards, and your opponent puts 1 random card from his hand on the bottom. So this lets you recover pretty much any superstar specific cards that are in your ringside, and lets you draw cards and makes your opponent bury a random hand card. It's a solid, good card. And from Limitless, Working Class Hero. This is a WCW pre-match storyline. When packing this card, you are a WCW superstar, and your superstar specific cards are WCW and do not take up ring slots. Cannot be packed when packing. Managed by Sapphire. Oof, that's tough. Cannot be blanked or prevented from being played by your opponent. Can be played from ringside. Your ability gains. Your classic cards are WCW, and when successful, bury one or less ringside cards or draw one card. So this is when you have to start to make your decisions based on what you're going to do with your deck. Because as we went over earlier, Managed by Sapphire is a really good card. It's really good. So do you want the reversal from Managed by Sapphire? Or do you want the WCW stuff? Let's take a look at the WCW stuff. Superstar logo equals blank. That's a good way of filtering out all of the superstar specific cards. Trait WCW. All right. If Dusty's packing working class hero, he gets ready to rumble at 0 fortitude, and it cannot be reversed because he's a WCW superstar. Ready to rumble is a good card. It gives you recovery. It makes King Interferes free, basically, and it gives you reverse restriction on your next card. Good card. Managed by Eric. You're probably not going to pack this unless you're going with the NWO. Where the big boys play. Here we go. Pre-match allegiance WCW. When you put a WCW card into your ring, your opponent discards one card. So let's take a second look at Working Class Hero. The very bottom, your classic cards are WCW. And when successful, bury one ringside card or draw one card. So with big boys, if your classic maneuver is successful, your opponent would discard one for big boys, and then you can either bury a ringside card or draw a card. That could potentially work out very well in your favor. When played by a WCW superstar, you may search your arsenal for 2 cards and put them under this card and then shuffle. Once during each of your turns, you may put the bottom card of your arsenal under this card. And as an ace, once during each of your turns, when it is not your first turn of the game and you have lower fortitude, you can remove 2 cards under this card from the game, look at your opponent's hand, choose 2 reversals, and they cannot be played in response to the next maneuver. So it's a costly ace, but as you'll see in a second, there's other stuff that makes it not as costly. It's really good, especially if you can consistently use this ace. Your opponent's going to have a hard time. Great Deal of Confusion, which is a really good reversal. It ignores can only be reversed and cannot be reversed from a card. And it reverses a non-superstar specific card that cannot be reversed or with a can only be reversed effect. Solid. And then it does stuff with Halloween Havoc and Big Boys. So let's go to Halloween Havoc. It can only be played by a WCW superstar. This card does not take up a slot in your ring. It's a great line of text. Your opponent draws 3 cards, and you can put the top card of your arsenal face down into your ring as a non-unique D3 strike played from hand, and he can attempt to reverse it as if it was your turn. If he does not put your card under this card, he discards 2. And when there's a card under Halloween Havoc and you have no pre-match cards that are D1 or more in your ring, your fortitude is +3. So Dusty can potentially start with 3 fortitude, which is always nice. It's a good underrated effect. And if he doesn't, then maybe opponent played elbow to the face or revolution of the mind. And that means they don't have it later on in the game when it really matters. And maybe you'll have something that helps you when you're playing from behind. Welcome to Monday Nitro. Requirement allegiance to WCW. When you are a WCW superstar, this card does not take up a pre-match slot in your ring. And when you activate where the big boys play, you may put the cards on the bottom of your arsenal. So instead of removing 2 cards from under big boys, you just bury them under your arsenal, which is pretty good. Chaos and Pandemonium at ringside. I'll be honest, I really never pack this card. It's tough to reverse, but the fortitude is just high enough that makes me not want to. I'll read it just so you're aware of what it is. It is a maneuver special, so it has no maneuver type, which makes it hard to reverse. 13 fortitude, 4 damage, 2 stun, and it's WCW. When you're a WCW superstar, it is multi, which again makes it easier to reverse. When played, choose up to 5 cards in your hand, shuffle them into your arsenal, and draw the same number of cards plus 1. Your opponent shuffles number random cards from his hand into his arsenal and draws up to number of cards, where number is the number you chose. For each card he draws, this card is plus 1 damage, and when successfully played, he removes 1 random card in his ringside from the game. So it's not an awful card, but it only gives you 4 fortitude. It lets you cycle your hand, but in this particular deck, Dusty Rhodes is capable of drawing a bunch of cards, so probably really doesn't need to cycle his hand too much. I usually don't pack this card. WCW title belt is plus 2 superstar value. It's permanent. Pre-match object. When this card is in your ring, once during each of your turns and your opponent reverses a maneuver from hand, you may reveal a non-unique action from hand and then remove the reverse maneuver from the game. Or if you have a card in your ring with any of those logos, you put that card on the bottom instead. Your turn does not end, and your next card play can only be the revealed action. After playing that card, end your turn. Unless my superstar does something with RFG cards, or if I have a card with a logo that's shared, I'm probably not going to use this card. It's not bad, but for Dusty Rhodes, it's not gonna do anything. And then the WCW tag team title belts. Well, Dusty Rhodes isn't a tag team, so he cannot pack these. So there's a lot of good WCW cards. We'll save whether we're going to go Working Class Hero or Sapphire until we take another closer look at other stuff. Hall of Fame, Hall of Famer from Limitless. This is Fortitude 8. It's an action that reverses an action. As an action, shuffle this card and 2 ringside cards into your arsenal and draw 1 or less. As a reversal, ringside search 1 or fewer cards. When this card is in your ring or ringside and your opponent successfully plays a maneuver, you may bury this card. So as an action, it's another, combine it with the Common Man Boogie. It's another card that lets you shuffle in itself and other ringside cards, which is great. It reverses actions, which Dusty Rhodes has enough action hate that if your opponent pays the cost of randomly discarding a card and you reverse his action anyway, he's not going to have a good time. And when it's in your ring or ringside and your opponent successfully plays a maneuver, you can bury this card. So you can often keep cycling this card. Really good. We'll definitely make it into the deck. All right, let's go back to the beginning. Dusty Rhodes is a legend. So let's see cards with legend in the text. In my day, a maneuver was a maneuver. This will go into your deck. It's really good. Good, solid reversal. We'll definitely be packing that. In fact, let me put it into my deck right now. We'll put it right there. Cowboy Bob Interferes. Another really good card. This has ended a lot of games. 15 fortitude, 5 damage. Reverse any non-unique card. That's really good. That's absolutely going in. Shoot Lockup, Phoenix Rising, Marquisa's Wrestling, which is not a bad card, but based on where I think this deck is going, it's not going in. Can't Pack Managers. Through all these years, Throwback and Living a Good Life Throwback. We'll get back to that. Classy Freddy Blassie, Maker of Champions. We can't pack Managed by Freddy, but this card doesn't take up a slot and it lets you put potentially the hardcore belt or the world belt in your ring, which we might go with that. Saturday night's main event. This is another thing you lose if you go with working class hero. When you are a WWF superstar or a legend, your non-faction WWF backlash cards in your ring increase your capacity at the same type by 1, and your starting hand size is +1. So it makes itself free and all your WWF cards free. When you are a WWF superstar and you have lower fortitude, you may double the numbers in the text of your maneuvers with classic in the title. And when you successfully play one of those cards, your opponent either discards 1 or removes 2 or fewer cards in his ringside from the game. Okay, so I think I just misspoke actually, because Working Class Hero makes Dusty a WCW superstar in addition to his classic WWF superstar. So potentially with Working Class Hero, you could be a WCW and a WWF superstar. So your choice really becomes, do you want the Allegiance, Saturday night's main event, or do you want the Allegiance where the big boys play? We'll see how the rest of the deck unfolds before we make that decision. Legendary comeback. I wish this card was better. If your deck is built specifically around it, then I mean, it's probably not very good. Sorry, but a lot of the cards that this card is referencing aren't very good. It has its place. Someone like Hacksaw Jim Duggan might really like this card, but overall, it's not tremendous. Megaphone, we can't pack. Okay, legendary defense. This is generally a must pack in almost every legend. Can only be packed by legend, except Doink. Cannot be packed when packing non-superstar specific managers, which we can't pack anyway. When packing this card, your step aside, escape move, and break the hold are unique. And when this card is hidden, and again, this card is always considered to be hidden. When this card is hidden, they can reverse a strike, grapple, submission, assault, throw, or hold. And your lift a boot can also reverse extremes and ignore the can only be played text. So legendary defense turns step aside, escape move, and break the hold into kind of omni reversals. So we will absolutely be putting that into our deck. And since we'll be packing step aside, escape move, and break the hold, we cannot pack Revolution of the Mind. So we'll get rid of those. Legendary Ruthlessness. I don't love this card. It's kind of too expensive, and we don't get Classic Competitor. And we're not a new legend of WWE, so it's not bad, but I'm going to skip it. Sunny, we don't get. Connecting with the Universe, we don't get. One Hell of a Match, we don't get. Crucifix Roll-Up, I don't think we'll need that card. NXT Generation, not relevant. The counter reversals are not relevant. All right, Living the Good Life. Can only be packed by a legend. Put any number of cards from your hand on the bottom of your arsenal and then put the same number of cards from your ringside into your hand. Remember, Dusty Rhodes is going to be able to draw a lot of cards. So this card could really be good. So that is going into the mid-match. Jimmy Hart, we can't pack him. Through all these years, can only be packed by a legend superstar. It makes you pre-match +1, so it's essentially a free pre-match card. During your turn, if you are about to lose the game by pinfall victory, during your turn, or if you are about to lose the game via pinfall victory, you may put this card into your ringside, shuffle 9 cards from your ringside into your arsenal, and end the current turn. So we already remember that Dusty has a card that continues the game, and via one of the Shenanigans cards, you can only continue the game once per player. However, you can ace this card during your turn to shuffle in 9 cards. So let's put it in because it's free anyway. Can't pack Legendary Management. Legendary Assistance and Legendary Ring Skills are just the watered down version of Cowboy Bob Orton and In My Day a Maneuver Was a Maneuver. So we don't need to look at those. All right, while I'm here, let's look up card type reverse. And we will add Step aside, escape move, break a hold. Those are our base reversals. All right, so let's get the specifics in where they belong. Dusty Rhodes, superstar card will go there. American Dream, solid card. I like to put them, when I play a game, I usually separate my shenanigans from the rest of my backstage cards just because it unclutters them. So I like to have my specifics the most visible. So the American Dream and the Common Man. Texas Bull Rope match will go into the pre-match. Managed by Sapphire. Let's hold off on that for now. Dusty's Longevity absolutely will go in. Common Man elbow drop. Yes. Figure 4 for now. Could cut it. Bionic elbow drop. Good. Son of a Plumber. Common Man Boogie. Hard Times. Rhodes Family Values. We'll get back to Working Class Hero. Hall of Fame. Hall of Famer. All right. So before we go any further, let's look at classic cards. His superstar is kind of based around them, so let's see. He's not a tag team, so he doesn't get classic teamwork. Classic left cross punch and classic right cross punch. These are very similar to the original cross punches in classic Raw Deal. They are punches that let you search for another cross, and they each have bonuses. The right cross makes your first and second move with cross and title, makes it so they cannot be reversed with backlash. And the left cross makes all of your cross maneuvers +1 stun. Solid cards, and remember, Dusty can pack up to 3 because he makes them so they're not unique. Classic kick, elbow smash, drop kick, classic power punch. Are you noticing what I'm noticing? There's a good number of punches that have classic in the title. Classic boxing jab. Huh. You know what I'm thinking. Let's look up superstar logo equals nothing. Card with punch in the text. I'm thinking Puncher's Chance might be a really good build for Dusty Rhodes. Because he gets, how many was that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's already 12 classic punches that he can use. I'm going to put that into my backlash deck for now. Let's put that right there. Puncher's Chance might be the way to go with Dusty. So let's see. Puncher's Chance. Let's go over that before we go any further. Pre-match event cannot be packed when packing Very European or Brass Knuck Shot. Very European is a Cesaro card. When your opponent plays a reversal. Oh, this text is slightly outdated. The current text is something like when your non-chain, non-volley, non-RMS punch, fist, hook, uppercut, haymaker, or jab strike is unsuccessful. Opponent overturns number cards where number is the number of punch, fist, hook, uppercut, haymaker, or jab maneuvers in your ringside, max 3. So this card punishes your opponent for reversing your punch and etc. cards. Now, the trade-off is that those punch cards typically aren't very good. So you're kind of throwing vanilla maneuvers all game, and you're almost hoping your opponent reverses them because oftentimes it'll do more damage and it's overturned. Non-damage card effects, there's only a couple cards that reverse them. So, I mean, on Discord, I'm known as a Puncher's Chance guy, so of course my mind goes here. Yeah, I think we're going to do that. So what pairs better with Puncher's Chance? Sapphire or Working Class Hero? So with Working Class Hero, your punches become WCW, which means when they're successful, opponent will discard one, and then you can either draw one or bury a ringside card. And Puncher's Chance makes it so when they're unsuccessful, your opponent overturns 3. So this makes your opponent have a bad day no matter what happens. So I think we're going to go with Working Class Hero. So we're going to make Dusty a WCW superstar. So let's go back to our WCW cards. Ready to Rumble, great card. We definitely want that. Big Boys Play. Yeah, we may have to finagle some pre-match slots, but I think we'll be able to do it. Great Deal of Confusion, solid reversal. Anything that reverses cheese moves is good by me. Halloween Havoc, it doesn't take up a slot, so that's good news for me. We'll put that there. Welcome to Monday Nitro, we will put that there. Chaos and Pandemonium, we don't want. WCW belt, we don't want. Tag belts, we can't pack. All right, so let's close out of that window. So right now we have 43 cards in our arsenal. And again, there's some cards that we might not have at the end of the day. Hold the Phone comes to mind, perhaps Dusty's Figure 4, since it doesn't really fit the theme. But let's see where we go. So if we're going with Puncher's Chance, let's go back to the classic list. All right, we definitely want 3 left cross, 3 right cross, and we want 3 power punch, and we want 3 boxing jab. So that's 12. That leaves us with 5 cards in our arsenal. So any Puncher's Chance deck isn't really a Puncher's Chance deck without 2 cards. Brutal Blindside Beating and Blindside Hook. Now, I know they don't fit Dusty's classic theme, but, you know, sometimes you really need fortitude. And throw Brutal Blindside Beating and Blindside Hook enough, and they're going to go through. And it also gives you access to Blindsided by the Dangerous Divas. Because if you have Brutal Blindside Beating and Blindside Hook, you have 2 cards of Blindside entitled in your ring. So it lets you remove your top 5 and then shuffle up to 10 of your RFG cards. Against certain opponents, that could be a lot. So we're going to add 1 of those. So now we have 2 cards left. So let's look. Is there any classic moves that we want other than the ones that we have? I mean, the only one that comes to mind is Classic Claw, just because it's a good card. But it's not really fitting any kind of theme. So I don't know if it's going to make it into this deck. It's very difficult to reverse, but at 14 Fortitude, but then again, it could be minus Fortitude. All right, we'll put them in for now. We'll put 2 in for now to fill out the deck into 60. And we'll see if there's any kind of punch that we want. No, none of these. Right cross. No, we don't really need the printed non-uniques. Gut Punch is a really good card that I always try to put them in to a Puncher's Chance deck just because they are so powerful. And I feel like I kind of want them more than I want Classic Claw. So yeah, I'm gonna get rid of the claws. I'm gonna put in 2 gut punches. I mean, I feel like I'm delaying the inevitable because Hold the phone. It's a really good card, but I don't think it's going to cut it. So I could add a third gut punch. And remember, with puncher's chance, you need punches in your ringside. And if you don't have enough, then you're going to lose out. Yeah, I don't think I need any of these other punches. Series of punches is good, but we're going with a fan favorite build because blindside hook is just better in this deck. All right, so what other words are listed on puncher's chance? Fist, hook, uppercut, haymaker, and jab. Well, we have one card left, so I mean, precision haymaker is a game ender. So that might be our card number 60. I mean, that's how quick it is to build a puncher's chance deck. I mean, this deck on the surface looks okay to me. Let's look at the backlash and see what we can do. All right, big boys, bull rope. Havoc doesn't take up a slot. Nitro doesn't take up a slot. Working class hero, which doesn't take up a slot thanks to itself, which also means bull rope doesn't take up a slot. So right now we have one pre-match card that takes up a slot out of all of these. Two with puncher's chance. So we have 4 open pre-match slots to work with, which is good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we really, if we get one more pre-match card that doesn't take up a slot or increases your capacity by 1, we can play all 12 of our pre-match, which is kind of the goal in virtual. So let's look at card type contains pre-match. Let's see. Well, in a puncher's chance deck, we want 2 blindside precisions because you can go get brutal blindside beating and you can go get blindside hook. Also in a puncher's chance deck, you want find out how to fight from Finley, because that means your opponent cannot play old switcheroo to your puncher's chance, which would really put a dent into your build. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have 1 pre-match slot left. And 2 that we can pack. So remember, Dusty's ability works with the difference in your superstar value. What's a good way of getting your superstar value to change? Or to get your opponent's superstar value to change? Perhaps we look into product endorsements. Can only be played when your opponent does not have a face card in his ring. Your next face pre-match card you play has the added text of the maximum number of pre-match cards you have in your ring is increased by 2. Your opponent's superstar value is minus number, where number is equal to your superstar value plus 1 for every face card in your ring area. So if Dusty gets this card before his opponent has a face card in his ring, opponent's superstar value will be minus 5. Which can be really good if you want to draw a bunch of cards. So we're going to add that in. And that card makes itself free if your next card is face. So let's look at trait face. Giving them high fives. Overturn 5 at the end of the pre-match. Put 1 card from your ringside into your hand. Remember, puncher's chance. We want punches in our ringside, so that might not be a bad one. I think the only other consideration is old school psychology, because that's a really good card, and Dusty already has a semi-discard theme going on at the moment. However, if your opponent plays Find Out How to Fight from Finley, you cannot play Old School Psychology. So right now, Dusty Rhodes' hand size is 5. And Monday Nitro makes it -2. So he might not have a big hand size to start the game. So I think we're going to roll the dice and go with Old School Psychology. It's overall a better card than giving them high fives. And it can, if your opponent, excuse me, if your opponent attempts to play a non-superstar specific mid-match action, he has to randomly discard a card for the Texas Bull Rope match and then discard a card for Psychology, and then you can still reverse it. So that could really be good. So if he's trying to spam Ready to Fight, for instance, he's going to have a bad day. So I think that's 12 pre-match cards, and we can play all of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then how many take up slots? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So only 5 pre-match cards take up a slot out of our 12, which means we can play all 12. Remember I said a second ago about Dusty's hand size. Good card to pack might be buying myself some time. It can only be packed by a superstar with a printed hand size of 5 or less, which Dusty Rhodes has. Cannot be packed by those superstars. Before your draw segment of your first turn, when this card is in your backlash and you have 5 or fewer cards in your hand, and you do not have a card with interest in the title of your ring, and your enforcer is not test, you can put this card into your ring, draw up to 2 cards, and your opponent's ability is blank until the start of your next turn, and he skips his next draw segment. So if Dusty Rhodes has 5 or fewer cards in a starting hand, he gets to draw 2 for this card, and then potentially draw 3 for his ability. So he could draw 5 cards. So let's put that card right at the top so we remember it, because forgetting that card often happens. So we have 8 mid-match cards, which means we have 4 slots to work with. As far as I remember, we are not aligned to Raw or SmackDown. And as I always say, when in doubt, Raw. Because King Interferes is a really good card, and Undermine the Competition is a really good card. Sex Gods, Freaks, Frauds is also a good card. I'm not sure if it'll make it into this deck. But let's take a look at other mid-match to see if anything sticks out. When I look at mid-match, I like to start at the bottom because the virtual mid-match are typically a good way to start. We're not SmackDown, but one-on-one with The Undertaker is a very good card. None of these are really jumping out at me. Desperate Struggle. Do I have? No, I don't think I have any. Special Guest Ref. It's a card you don't want to play against if you have Precision Haymaker. I don't think it'll make it into this deck. He's not a stable. Turning everything upside down is a card that I really need to start packing more, especially with Ricochet in the game. Yeah, none of these are jumping out at me. We don't want the Revolution cards. Overrated Superstar? No, not worth it. Old School Brawl is a really good card against a lot of decks. So for now, we'll put that in. We'll see if it stays that way. We don't want the Revolution cards. Witty Retort. I don't think there's anything that we need to make permanent. Although, yeah, I guess it's not really worth it. Because the RFG effect that this card has is good, but it's not amazing to make me want to put it in. But is it better than, say, Road to Victory? You know what? I'm gonna add witty retort in instead of, I'm gonna take out Road to Victory. All right, that might be it. Yeah, so I think that's the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. Between his superstar card, the polka dot one, of course, legendary defense, his specifics. We might not want to pack backstage autograph session since I don't really want my opponent to get one more hand size. So I'm going to take that one out. The Arsenal looks pretty solid. I wish I had room for some pain reversals, but I think that's just the way it's going to be. And the Backlash deck, it looks pretty solid to me. I'll let you know in a future episode if I play this deck, and I'll tell you who it was against and how it went. But I think that's basically it for this episode. Thank you for tuning in, and I will hope to do more of these card game reviews. And in the meantime, do your best and get good.